is uh, one of my friends, Mr. Architect Anand Vishnu BU. He has completed his architecture from TKM College of Engineering, Kollam, and studied Masters in Architecture from SPA Delhi, specialized in conservation. And as you all know, this webinar will be a great chance for students to understand the conservation and its different perspectives. Once again, on behalf of Vedavyasa College of Architecture, I extend my warm welcome to our resource person, Architect Anand Vishnu, to this program. And I invite Architect Anish, the principal of Vedavyasa, to share a few words about this Vista webinar series. Thank you. Anish sir, can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah. Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So indeed, it is a privilege for me to be present on this the first of our webinar series, which we are planning to do once every month. So this is in a step taken to create awareness among students, to have students in contact with the people in various kind of specializations in the field, and also to highlight the presence of our college in the architecture field. So Vista has been planned accordingly, where we will invite guests from all over the country once every month, and those people who are involved in various fields of not just architecture alone, maybe art, science, in whichever field that is connected with architecture, and even other common grounds. So today we have with us architect Anand Vishnu, who is basically a conservation architect. He passed out from TKM College of Architecture. He did his BA and his master's in conservation from SPA Delhi. So he has been involved in very various conservation projects in both the national and international level within this short span. He has worked with INTAC, UNESCO, etc. So I think conservation is a topic which has not much been talked about in various webinars that we see, which has been happening throughout the country. So we have webinars concerned with various other topics, but conservation I haven't seen much of webinars which has been connected with conservation. So today's topic is also very special in the sense that it's not just basically about conservation. It's about conservation and maybe it's adaptive reuse that makes it more meaningful in why we conserve various various places of architecture or even historical importance. So I think Mr. Anand Vishnu will provide an insight to all these, and it will be helpful to our students. So I think so I invite architect Anand Vishnu. Please, the stage is yours.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. First of all, good morning, all. And I'm very delightful that Vedavyasa actually invited me to present the webinar. So basically, this why I choose this conservation webinar, because one of the important thing is that heritage has become like a fascination word among the architects and even among many people in the current scenario. So, sir, can I start sharing it?
Yeah, you can.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes, Anand.
Yes. Okay. So my topic is about the heritage conservation for the future. actually the why this is currently important, because right now in the current scenario, what we are actually booming towards the modernism, and as we are architects, we are actually facing a lot of issues with the urbanizations and a lot of things that is happening on the current cities, which is actually demolishing the heritage and the heritage factors which is already present. So, and even though at the same time we have a set of architects who is actually booming and who is actually forwarding towards modernism, and there is set of architects who are actually trying to preserve the and conserve the heritage values of the entire communities and the entire cities. And the point that we are actually missing in every heritage conservation as an architect, I mean, this heritage word or like the heritage buildings has become a fascination for most of the architects. But the thing that they are missing when they are doing something in the heritage building is that don't know exactly what they are doing into the heritage buildings is right or wrong, and whether what we are doing will be helping the heritage building, or what we are what whatever the changes that we are making in a heritage building is good for it. So I mean, those elements are always missing in the current scenario when we look into a heritage conservation or an adaptive use or any kind of things which is happening in a heritage conservation. So first let us get to know is what is heritage. So for us, most of us think that heritage is something which is actually we can see it. And like for us, heritage, we mostly consider the heritage as a heritage buildings which is around us, or which is like an old structure, where it could be a fort, could be anything. But actually, in actual definitions, heritage building is something that is inherited from the ancestors to our future generation. It could be anything. It could be it can be tangible, it can be intangible, and those things, it's not mandatory that heritage is touched. Heritage can be touched. It has certain kind of sizes, it has certain kind of values. It doesn't have all these kind of constraints. Anything which does have some values, which is has some historical values, which is meant to carry forward to the future generation, is considered as heritage. So moving on to the next slide. So let's get to know that what are the types of heritage, because heritage has been a word which is actually talked from long time, maybe from centuries, actually even from ancient times, because conservation, preservation and the renovation, restoration is has been done throughout the throughout the centuries when the mankind is already existing. But later what happened was the perspectives of heritage change. Later the now the heritage, when you consider the world heritage itself, the world heritage is divided into two parts, which is natural and cultural. So this natural heritage that includes the landscapes, what exactly, I mean, the mountains, the sea, the rivers, the ocean, everything, because all these natural heritage actually helped in shaping the man-made, as in the our humankind. So, suppose, let's say an example, Indus Valley civilization and Egyptian civilization came to that point or came to that place due to one reason, which is the natural thing, which is called the river. So always when we consider a civilization, or when we consider some kind of studies or some kind of heritage cities, there is always some natural cause which led them to the start of the heritage, I mean, of the city. So that's the, so when we consider or conserve, or when we do some preservation works in a heritage city, so it's always mandatory that we have to conserve the natural cause also. Otherwise, what we will be doing is we will be just mimicking, or we will be just we will be there is always the saying called beating above the bush. So we won't be conserving the cause, or we won't be conserving in whole. Only what we are taking is the small part, and we are trying to, I mean, mimic what exactly, I mean, it is. And then later, when the, I mean, ICOMOS and the UNESCO started including more things into the World Heritage, normally the heritage word got into a new shape, which is called cultural heritage. That means anything which is related to the mankind, anything which is which has some values with the mankind could be considered as a heritage. And in this cultural heritage, we can actually divide them into tangible and intangible. So tangible one, most of the people as architecture students, most of the people might be knowing this thing. Tangible ones means which are the ones we can actually perceptible, which can be touched, which is concrete and or physical. That means they can be touched, we can feel it, and we can see in front of the eyes, which can be considered as built heritage. Mostly the examples are the built heritage, the fort, the palaces, the monuments, the tombs, and a lot of structures which is man-made and which can be touched. So that is the tangible heritage. And next, it is the intangible heritage. This intangible heritage is something which is the stories behind, and which is the myths behind. So when we conserve a tangible heritage, which is like a fort or like a palace complex or any temple or any religious structure, so we are not only conserving the tangible part, we are actually carrying forward the cultural values, significant values, and maybe there's some of the art forms, festivals, folk traditions, or any other things. So this is what I mean, which is called tangible, intangible. So like what you have to understand is heritage is not something which can be explained in one word. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's every. I mean, it is there from our daily livelihood itself. I mean, to be honest, I mean, it is there with our families itself. I mean, heritage conservation or heritage is something that we are taking from, as we are like an Indian, in an Indian concept, like we are one society or one community which actually believes in lot about the social values and society and all the cultural values. So we have the habit of conserving the heritage which is we are having, which has to be carried forward. And in the case of tangible heritage, there are actually two things. So one is movable ones. Movable one is the things which are called as artifacts. Artifacts are something like the which are the smaller things. Maybe it could be pots, it could be any smaller objects that can be moved from one place to another. So these are the artifacts actually which we go to a museum, or which we go to a history museum or any kind of museum. What we see there is the movable, tangible heritage. And immovable ones are the larger structures. Suppose it may be palace, it may be fort complex, or any human, I mean anything which can't be movable from one place to another. So these are the different types of heritage. So, and when we move forward, there are something called elements of heritage. So in the heritage itself, I mean, when we consider the heritage itself, there are different elements such as the archaeological heritage. Archaeological heritage are something which is buried underground. I mean, which we don't know whether it was existing or not. I mean, when we happen to excavate it, or when we happen to discover it accidentally or on a study basis. So there are a lot of archaeological heritage which is still there in India, which we really don't know, and we are still excavating it. And then there is called built heritage. Built heritage is what exactly I explained, which is called as tangible ones, which is the fourth structures, anything which is man-made and which is tangible. And the third part is the customs and tradition. Customs and tradition is the one, as an Indian, we do have a lot of, I mean, we are the country with unity in diversity. So we do have a lot of customs and traditions which we are carrying forward, which we are celebrating. And I guess we are the only community and only country that actually celebrates a lot of festivals. I mean, we celebrate every other religion's festival. We don't have much of the I mean diversities. I mean, we don't have any religious borders nowadays, and I mean we are getting more open. So our customs and tradition are something that which is diversified and which has to be, I mean, which has to be carried forward. Then next is called the natural heritage. India is, I mean, our country itself is one among the most richest natural the elements which is having. We have the deserts, we have the sea, we have the ocean, we have the forest, and we have different types of forest, and we have the, cold deserts also. So when what we are having is some kind of a natural diversity, and which is having a heritage value importance also. And later on in the new era, like when we consider, there is always this question which is coming among the people: how we can distinguish the heritage, like what is the baseline of the heritage. So for that, actually, ICOMOS and UNESCO has done this thing. Given the definition. So what they exactly say is that a building or anything which is actually of 100 years of old, which is of 100 years of old, could be considered as heritage. So recently, this new term came into existence that is called industrial heritage. Why this came was in when the industrial revolution started. There is a lot of industries, and there is a lot of warehouses, and there is a lot of industrial architecture came into existence, which is right now become a part of the heritage, because it's been 100 years now the industrial revolution has started. So now people have already started thinking of conserving the industrial heritage. The simplest example I can give you is the Kochi Binale, which is happening. Most of the structures, what they are taking are the industrial warehouses and the industries which they are converting into exhibition spaces and other, other spaces, which actually they are not just reusing the building, they are actually rewriting the concepts of the heritage buildings, concepts of the industrial building, and also helping them in retaining the structure for a longer period. And here is a problem that is happening. Why we should conserve the, or why we should understand the heritage building. So the basic thing that I should say, it's a little bit funny. Do we respect the old? Though we know we should. Actually, this is something that always happens in our family. This is the same concept that we can, link to the heritage structures also. So when we have an old person in the family, or when we have an old member in the family, we actually try to take care of them, right? So this is the same thing that we should do with a heritage structure. So it doesn't matter if it is getting old that we should get neglected. So if we had a grandma, or if we had a grandfather, our father won't never say that she's getting old, or he's getting old. No, let's don't invest any money in her. She will be dying soon. So let's forget that she's there in our house. So it's the same thing that what we have to do with a heritage building. If we have a heritage building in our hand, or if we know somebody who has a heritage building with them, so we have to actually tell them that what they should do, and what are the things that we should do to save one heritage structure. That will there is a single drop per day will be making an ocean at the end. So this is something that is a simple step that we should take for a larger perspective. And next is the need for heritage. Why we need the heritage? So heritage is something that actually connects with our past. It shapes the community. So everybody, most of the people would be thinking right now in this webinar that what exactly am I talking about, like heritage. What is the what am I doing with the heritage? What is my connection to the heritage? So let me tell you like a simple example. Like you all are from Vedavyasa, and your college is near Ramanatugara. So actually Ramanatugara has a history, which most people don't know. When we look at the name of Ramanatugara, this name came from a story in which the Raman stepped there, where on the en route to some place, he actually stepped there, and there is some imprints, and there is some temple, and there are some marks which left there, which actually shaped the place, and the name of the place became Raman Atugara. Raman stepped there. So that's the beauty. The names that our places are having, the names that what we are getting into. There are a lot of things that we don't know. Once we try to know the heritage, we will be understanding what exactly we are holding to. And as in heritage and it increases the character of the community and character of the area also. It's something like what exactly we should say when we go to Delhi, or when we always, it's simple that we always try to go to places which is having some kind of values. As in, when we go to the vacation trips, mostly in India, we go to places like Jaipur, Delhi, or other places like Shimla, or any, something. Mostly in Mysore, when we go to Mysore, what we exactly visiting is a heritage there. So that is the character that we are addressing there, and which is actually helping to shape the community, and which actually retains the characters there. So the next thing is that it helps the to shape our identity, and our heritage becomes part of what we are exactly, to be, to be precise. So it's something like if we do have a heritage, and if we do understand the heritage, there are some things that we always missing out in our daily life, which our ancestors did for some good. There is always this taboos which existed in our olden ancestral times, but there are a lot of knowledge systems, there are a lot of things that our ancestors followed, which we are not following right now. And right now, most of the, we as the architects, we are actually, trying to being sustainable. But the important fact that we missed out was sustainability. Living sustainable or living eco-friendly was like the basic thing that we have to do inside the environment. It's like breathing, it's like eating. So being sustainable, it's not like a fancy word, but which our ancestors did properly. Well, like even in the construction techniques, even in the knowledge system, even in their daily life also. Like the simple thing I could say is that we are a group of community which is actually having the agriculture background. So our food systems were actually related to the agriculture background. That's why we started eating a lot of rice, because we need more starch, we need more energy. But later on, when we took off from the agriculture sector, but we still try to carry the same food habit. So that is the reason when we became, when right now most of the diet plan says that don't eat rice. Why? Because we don't need that. But the only thing that's happening here is that we are only carrying forward the periphery part. We are not understanding why we did it. So understanding the heritage will help to shape ourselves. And the third point is that a place that can provide excellent local educational resource for the people of all ages. Like if we have a temple, or if we have any kind of structures, heritage structures, there will be, it can be converted it into a museum, or it can be converted into many kind of for educational purposes or resources, which is actually helping the people to understand more about the place holistically. And the fourth point is the sustainable communities, which I already told you. There are many cities in India which is actually surviving due to the heritage, because one important fact is the heritage tourism, which is helping many communities to survive throughout the India, and which is actually helping them in a good way, positive way, which is called self-sustainable communities. And why need to understand why we need to understand heritage. So this part is something which is we have to look when we are handling any heritage structure or any heritage building in our lifetime. So it's not like I'm not saying that we have to conserve every heritage buildings, as in every traditional building which is coming in front of us. We have to have some values, because there is something that if we are in a density which is already saturated, like suppose imagine that we are working in Calicut, or we are working in Kochi, Fort Kochi, or any of the heritage cities which is already concentrated and saturated, and we don't have any place to work, or we don't have any place to rebuild or something. So that would be the point, that we have to sort or grade the heritage structure in such a way that we can do some changes to some structures, and we can not, we have to preserve some structures. So this has to be considered in different bases, One is a historical significances. That is whenever we check, whenever we get into a heritage structure or any heritage projects, we have to understand the historical values. And what are the historical values this building is having? Maybe it will be a city, or maybe it could be a village or anything. We have to understand the historical value, then only we can actually understand what exactly we have to conserve. And then it is a scientific significance, which is actually I am saying about the knowledge systems. So Kerala, I don't need to go to the pan India level. If we talk about the Kerala systems itself, we have a scientific set of construction systems throughout the Kerala, because Kerala itself has a wide variety of landscapes. As in, we have the highlands, we have the lowland, we have the ocean side, and we have the riverside. So if we check all these things, there are several very diversified construction systems and material usage, which is sustainable. It is the example is the forts are still staying, but the buildings that we are constructing, which is the concrete jungles, which is demolished, which is getting the cracks, demolition issues, and there is which is not stable, which is getting demolished day by day. But why the historical structures are still standing? So we have to understand the scientific significance and scientific backgrounds, which is the. Then the social significance. Social significance is something, always the heritage, when the heritage city or heritage building is coming there, it actually shapes the area around it, such as when you have a masjid around it, it actually shapes the place around it also. And if you have a temple, it actually shapes the community. So we have to understand how the heritage shaped the entire community. Then next is the aesthetic significance. Aesthetic significance is something that we have to, when it was a heritage the area, or when we go to a heritage precinct or heritage, say, a street or something, we have an aesthetic appeal. We have a similar kind of buildings which is going around, and the aesthetic senses which is very common. So we always fantasize about the European cities and the Moroccan cities and the all the Italian cities, Florence, and most of the European cities, which has the kind of heritage look. But the same thing that we have to think in our case also, when we are working on an urban design project or any kind of project which is having some kind of heritage. So we have to consider the aesthetic significance also, how we should do the we should do things in the future. If we need to construct something, should we have some rules and regulations, or should we look same like the other buildings? Like a simple example, in Jaipur, in the city, they have the strict rule that they have to go on certain kind of rules and regulations when we do a new building. That actually helps to retain the heritage character. So this will help the aesthetic significance and aesthetic sense to retain the city throughout the future. So the applications of heritage in Indian cities to support the self-esteem and pride. To which I was saying, like it actually gives a new dimension to the city, and which actually helps to understand more. Like when we say Fort Kochi, when we say Kochi, it doesn't make any sense. But when we say Fort Kochi, it is actually a pride, which actually makes people understand, yeah, that's a heritage city. It's something that we have. It's a pride to us that I'm part of, like I'm part of something. Like right now, I was working in Kottakkal. My thesis was Kottakkal, and now when I get to know that what exactly the Kottakkal is about, now I could say that yeah, I am from Kottakkal. I do have, like this is where I live. So, and next one, it is to add an visual attractiveness to the locality. As in, when we go to a heritage city or heritage precinct, we get to into a certain kind of sentiments or certain kind of emotional things, and it is visually attractive also, and which actually helps to increase the aesthetic value of the place. Then to provide the opportunities for recreation and especially for families, and that is something that we are always lacking. As a as a person who is living in a developing place or a developing municipality, so we don't have much places that we can actually spend our evenings or sometimes other than the our home and our family, with the family. So if we have a heritage precinct or if we have a heritage street or something, people will go there either for shopping, either for other things. And so one more thing, actually I am keep on explaining things. If there is any doubt, like for anybody, you can actually note it down, or you can just you can ask at the end of the Q&A session, which is open. You can ask anything which is related to heritage. Sorry, I didn't mention in before starting. So then the next thing it is that the threats for heritage. So which is very crucial right now in the society, like how we should conserve the heritage. What is the problems that we are? I mean, all these things we can tell, like the main problem with our current scenario and current syllabus that we are following is that many things that we are studying in our studios or in our things can't be applicable in the life things, like the same thing that gonna happen in the urban design, which why I'm telling you, because most of the theories that we are studying are based on some kind of experimentations that they did on a site, which won't be working in any other site. So conservation and heritage conservation, or understanding the heritage, is something always that we have to make new methodologies or new kind of working styles in each site. So let's get to know about some of the threats that is having. So one is a society valuing the heritage. So which I already said before, that why should I conserve heritage? Is that really important that I should conserve this building, or let it go and let's just demolish? Because just think that a person who is having a heritage building is always having this thought that this building is like 200 years old, and it is in the heart of the central business district, and it is 3 floors. So why should I just I should just conserve it, or I should just demolish it and construct a 6-storied building which is commercial, which is gonna generate more economy for me? So that's the kind of societies valuing the heritage. So if the person understands the importance of heritage building, he would be mostly doing that. He would be reworking on that building, or he would be trying to make the building on better way. And the indigenous hunting and gathering and collecting, that is another thing. Then changes in traditional way of life and knowledge system, which we all knows that we are not living like our ancestors. I mean, the things has changed. I mean, the most saddest part is that mostly we don't get people who actually work on the traditional buildings, as in we don't get a lot of masons. We don't get, there are a lot of traditional systems which people really don't know how they did it. So it's the most example I could say, that when we were working in a temple project in Kannur, there was like a magical, I could say, really it has a magical mixture. It was considered as Ilattali. It's considered as Ilattali. Sorry, it's considered as Ilattali, and it was they used it on the walls of the temple surface, not in order to as a medicine, it's not a medicine, it's a solution for the algae formation. And the temple still stands without any algae formation even after 500 years. So when we were doing this documentation, we were trying to get this composition, magical composition of the Silatali. None of the carpenters knows, none of the mason knows. They were actually saying that my ancestors has done that. I mean, the knowledge systems are not following right now, and we are not doing anything on that. So we lost the content and we lost the idea what exactly it is. So that is the problem that we are facing right now. We are not getting proper masons or proper workmanship on site. So then the next point is that change in population, local population. That is something which is always happening. When we have increased level of population, we need more items, we need more facilities. So heritage is always affecting with this, that the pollution increases, the people's mentality increases. Then the next part is the impact of tourism and visitor and recreation. So even when we say that the tourism, heritage tourism always help the heritage, but there is something which happens in the negative way also. The overflow of the tourists actually will deteriorate the buildings, heritage buildings. The one of the famous example was Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal was having a tourist inflow of more than 3 lakh per day, and they had to, and there was lot of places in which is this Taj Mahal is made of marble. Due to the increase in the footprint, it has the marble has deformed is its shape and is shining and is things, so that they had to actually restrict the visitors to some part, so that they can actually retain the existing thing. So there is always this, there should be always a balance when we do anything, whether it is tourism, whether it is recreation, whether it is, we are doing visitors, we have to balance. The only idea that we have to think is that we are doing it for the building, we are not doing it for the for any other purpose. It's for the building that we are doing. So it's something that when the building is in a dilapidated condition, or when the building is sick, I could say the building is sick, as like we have the hospitals. When we visit a sick person, we do have the certain kind of criteria, right? Only these many people can visit a day, only these many people can visit in this time. So this is the same thing that we should try thinking of it when we should take forward the tourism. We have to have certain kind of tourist numbers, and we have to calculate it, what is the maximum tourist footprint we can incorporate in this. Then the rest is the illegal activities. When all this heritage and all these heritage structures came into existence when on the recent times, maybe like in India, we could say the it is like the ASA started in 1861, but later on the heritage importance came very recently, maybe in 20th century, end of the 1900s, and in the 21st century it became more prominent. So before that, heritage was always open. Heritage, most of the heritage structures was not was close to other private property. So what people used to do is that they used to build on heritage structures, and they used to always have this illegal activities. Like when I was studying in Delhi, we always used to have this problem that private properties getting into the fort walls, private properties constructing over the heritage structures, and they have been staying there for 20 to 30 years. So we can't really move them, that we can really say them that you have to move it, it's an encroachment. And so when this if it is one or two, we can really work on it. But it's a city which is full of encroachments, we can't do anything, because city is meant for the people, and the government won't do anything against the people, because that's the vote ballot. Then the deliberate destruction of the heritage, it's something that that people do as nowadays very awfully, and very very I could say it's happening very consequently, like deliberate destruction of the heritage. That is something it's like when we address a heritage, what we used to do is we used to list the buildings in some kind of a national organization, so that the owner can't do anything much on the buildings. Once your building is listed, we can't actually do any modern construction, or there are a lot of rules. And because most of the peoples actually fear this thing, when we if like suppose if I'm having a heritage building, it's something like I fear that what if my building gets listed, I can't do anything in my property, this is my property and I have the right to do that. So what they used to do that, right when they get to know that their building is getting listed, they deliberately try to demolish the building overnight. This kind of things, incidents used to happen a lot of in most of the famous cities like Delhi, Jaipur and all. People used to demolish the buildings overnight, and they used to tell them, when we used to go for listing the building, they used to tell them that yeah, there has been some structural failure last night and the building demolished. And like imagine a 3-story building or 4-story building getting demolished overnight with no sign of no sign of any malfunction or anything. And then there are other factors which is always happening. Was one is the war, which is one of the which is not just bad for the heritage, it's also bad for the humankind. Then terrorism, that is something which is happening like frequently, I mean, throughout the world. One of the major example is the Buddha I mean monument, which got demolished by the ISIS in Afghanistan. So all these, and then the climatic change, which I could say, due to the change in the climate, where we have this severe weathers, acid rains and all, which is actually deteriorating the heritage buildings and all. Then the sudden ecological changes such as the floods and all. Then when some of the so these are the different threats that we are facing, that in the heritage building, and not just building heritage right now, which when we are addressing something what we would be knowing, then should we save it? So that's the question that always we are having. Even as a conservation architect, I won't really say that you have to conserve every traditional building. I mean, you have to always have some kind of criteria in saving the building. It's something like we have to, when we do the documentation, or when we do the when we cover a city also, you have to actually grade the building in such a ways that you have to check. I mean, earlier I have told several significant factors. I mean, there should be social significance, there should be scientific significance, there should be historical significance. So you have to, under these many factors, you have to grade the building in such a way that you have to, I mean, you have to make decisions what I have to do on this thing. So the basic thing to, I mean, save a heritage is that conservation. So under conservation is that the method of looking after plains retail it cultural significance. So under it we have four kinds of thing. One is preservation. Preservation is something which we preserve as it is. If we have a fort, if we have some kind of tomb, I mean, we preserve, we do basic structural corrections, and we make the building stand and make the building keep on going, and we preserve as the building it is. We won't do anything on that. We won't recreate it to some place, or we won't go back. We will preserve as it is. It's called the preservation. So then next we have the restoration. Restoration purpose is something, if we have a demolished wall, if we have something which is there, we do that kind of works and we restore into some kind of earlier, I mean, earlier period, the thing, like if we have a temple and its roof is broken, so what we do is that we will repair the roof and we will keep it like that, that it can retain its architectural character on the current scenario. We won't go back time. And reconstruction is something that we reconstruct it into totally into some we will take a timeline and we will look at what exactly the building it was, and we will reconstruct it to that timeline, so that we can actually understand what exactly the building was during that time. And the rehabilitation is something which is very tedious process, in which we rehabilitate the building, I mean, into, I mean, one of the earlier, much earlier context, and which we do all the work, and we will making the buildings looking as it is, and we will be presenting, I mean, we will be opening into for the community. So all these points are very similar. I mean, when we look into what exactly we are doing is conservation only, but the things, but the decisions that we are taking on site, according to that, these things are, I mean, different. Then why, then all these things I have told you, I mean, all these things are mostly the theories that which is there in this conservation field, and why it is hard to do. Then, I mean, the problem that is happening is that one thing, it is society's valuing of the heritage, which I already told you. Should I conserve my building? I mean, should I imagine that you are going into a city and you are listed some of the building, and you are asking other people, I mean, it's not my building. As an architect, I'm going and saying somebody and say that this building has to be conserved. You have to conserve this building. How? Like, you can't do anything, you can't do any construction, it has to be conserved. So what exactly we are doing is that we are actually encroaching into some other's property. Let's see, it's like someone is coming into your house and saying that you can't do any construction inside your property. It's been listed. So this is the kind of fear that when somebody is getting know that, oh my god, my building is listed, that's not a pride for most of the people in India. That has become like a nightmare, because what we are doing is that I mean, we are not making them understand. Like, we are just telling them, we are issuing an order. It's like confiscation order or something like that. So then the next thing that which is happening there was sorry the budget constraints. So the budget inside this budget constraint, what exactly the budget constraints are coming is, I mean, we have to therefore actually working in a heritage building. There is a lot of money which is needed. As in, like when we do works on the heritage buildings, there is a lot of I mean, we everything that we have to do should be done on the indigenous manner. I mean, we have to know the heritage system. As in, when right now all the buildings are made in cement and bricks, but in the olden times what we use is the lime and the laterite. Maybe in Kerala it could be laterite or any other bricks, mud bricks or any other rocks or anything. So that when we do a heritage conservation, there is a lot of money that we have to pump in. So mostly the heritage owner or the person who is owning the heritage don't have enough money to do, I mean, to do the construction purpose. So that is another thing which is hard. Like when we ask a building owner to do that, we have to do the conservation part. He would say that I don't have the money. I can't really do anything. That's why I'm not doing it. Otherwise, I would have done that. So then the thing is that the changes in the traditional way, I mean, the lack of workmanship, which is already present. Uh, so and the management, then the last one is the management and the institutional factors. So the management and the institutional factors are something which is like the legislation. Suppose we have the problem that we are having as we don't have proper municipality rules. Like the problem that still, like when I was working in my project itself, I went to the Kottagal municipality and I was working with the municipality people, planners who worked on the master plan of the Kottagal. Actually, what they did was they neglected the part which is called the heritage. They don't know what exactly the heritage for the place it is. What they did was a master plan which is not at all addressing any part of the heritage. So that is the problem. We don't have proper legislations which is actually helping the heritage buildings or saving the heritage building. So when you don't have a rule, it's simple that why we are putting the setbacks for our designs. We are putting our setbacks for the design because municipality is insisting us to do. Otherwise, we would have used the entire 100% of the site. So this is the same thing when you don't have a legislation which is actually not helping any heritage structures, people won't follow it. So that is another thing that we need to have strong legislations. So then the third point is how we should help them. I mean, how we have to make them understand. So one, it is the how corporates and civil societies can play a key role in preserving heritage. So this is something like when you are addressing the heritage structure, we are people with dreams. I mean, to be frank, we are people. We are architects with dreams. We don't have money to do it. We can only say that we have only say that you have to do it. We can't go and do it. So the thing is that when we are giving with a plan, when we are going with a plan, we have to make them understand how to do it, how you have to do it. So one thing it is that we have to make, when we have a heritage street or a heritage city, we have to first go and do some awareness program. So that we have to make some seminars. Like the most example I could say is that most of the people, you would have gone for Calicut Flea and this Kondoti Ikra Sufi festival. So when they did this Sufi festival there, people in the Kondoti itself understood that what exactly I am holding to, what is Kondoti is actually about, what is the heritage that we are having. Then only there started an organization which is actually planning to preserve the cultural part of the Kondoti and the Sufi traditions of the Kondoti. So always this small programs and small festivals helps to generate an understanding among the people. It's the same thing when the Binale, like Kochi, Fort Kochi was always there. It was there from centuries, but people only go to the Fort Kochi for some random photo shoots and to go to see the beach, and that's it. to get into the food. I mean, that's the only thing. But when the Binale started happening, the entire look of the Fort Kochi changed. I mean, the entire perspective changed, and people started going there, and then more investors started coming, more hotels started coming. I mean, people started understanding it in a different perspective. Then the next thing is that public private partnership. This is one of the important thing every architect and every conservation architect have to know, that how to save a heritage building using private public partner. It's something that we can't really say the government that we have a heritage structure, like the government has to, like, you have to conserve it and you have to fund for us. Government is already running in a deficit budget or debit. So we have to make some private public partnerships so that it will generate the funds to actually restore and conserve the building for the better way. It's something, the example that I could say is the Dalmia group was actually helping. I mean, Red Fort is given to the Dalmia group. There was a lot of controversies that happened in this Dalmia group thing with the Red Fort, that the government is selling the Red Fort to the Dalmia group. What exactly they did was not that, because government can't raise the fund to conserve and to do the works inside this Red Fort for a longer time. So what they did was they did give this money on lease to the Dalmia group so that they will fund this monument. There are a lot of groups like Reliance is there, there is Tata Group is there, and there is a lot of big business magnates group which is there, which actually government is asking to fund one monument per country, so that they can actually, like, imagine that if India is a country which is having 75% of the rich and 25% of the poor. There is very less called middle class and upper middle class. So we have the money with people. So what we have to do is that we have to approach them and we have to convince them so that they can invest money in them and they will get some return back also. Then the other thing is that we have to generate budgets, which I say, which can be done in public private partnerships also. And the last, so these are the, and the third part is that if we are getting into a heritage structure, which is like a small owner or something, and which doesn't have much heritage values, but still we have to conserve it. So in that case, we have to help owners in case of incentives. It's something that like, suppose I am having a heritage structures, and I am having something like heritage building, which I don't have enough money to do it, but I do have a heritage structure and I am living inside. So what exactly we can do is that we can give some intage in kind of taxation, like there is this building tax, land tax, there are different kind of things that a owner is giving to the government every year and maybe monthly also. So we can give some incentives to them, and we can sell it. We can give them a better place outside the heritage precinct. So there are a lot of things that which is actually there in the legislation, which actually helping the heritage. So suppose, I mean, what exactly as an architect we need to understand is that there is always a way to find out, and this heritage conservation is not just helping the building, it is also for helping the owner also. So there is always several loopholes, there is always several things that which is already always there in the legislation that we have to find out and we have to tell them so that it will help them at the end. So, and there is so these are the things, and one of the last thing I need to tell you was this why, I mean, when we do this heritage conservation and when we do this heritage conservation, what we do is that preservation, conservation. So what we do is the restoration of the things at the same way. So what, I mean, does it, like, imagine that if we are doing something, if we are doing it, and if we are presenting it, if we are preserving it on such in such manner, what exactly we'll be doing is that we'll be leaving it as such. I mean, as in adaptive reuse is something that which came into very recently, as in it came in the Europe and US very very earlier times, but in India adaptive reuse came very recently. Why we need to use do it adaptive reuse is that, imagine that we do have a heritage structure and we conserve it and we do the restoration, we do every work, and we made it as beautiful as it is, and we left it as like how it is. Nobody is using it, nobody. So what we are doing is that the building is again unused, and there is no, there is no use, or there is nothing that we have to, there is no income generation that is happening. And if the owner has spent something on restoring the structure, he has to get it returned back, right? So there is some kind of use that, there is always the saying, a building will be always good looking, and building will could be always saved if it is used. It's something that our parents used to say, like, if we buy something, and it would be always always looking good, or it will be always in a good condition if we use it. Same as a vehicle or anything, any car or automobile or anything. So it's the same thing when we do the conservation of a heritage structure. It is always good to make it as a reuse. So that will help the building in a better way, because we are using the building again. So when we use the building again, we will do the maintenance work properly. We will do another thing. And one more thing is that heritage conservation actually saves a lot of energy. That is another part. Because when we do work on the heritage structure, we are not including any new materials. We are using a lot of the old material. We are not increasing the footprint of the building. There are a lot of items that we are doing which is actually sustainable, on a sustainable way, and the materials that we are using are mostly the sustainable material. So in a way, it is actually helping the person and the owner and all the stakeholders in every manner. That is why most of the architects are moving into the heritage structure. Most of the people are trying to reuse. In Calicut, if you go to Gujarati street, there is a lot of restaurants which is coming up. There is a lot of offices which is coming up inside the heritage structure. So this is kind of an approach that we are having right now, which is there in our mind. But the thing is that when we do an adaptive use, we have to be very careful that the construction techniques that we are using, the material techniques that we are using, should be should be actually helping the buildings. So there should be proper documentation, there should be proper research purpose, there should be proper things that has to be done before when we do this adaptive use. One of the biggest failures that happened in the Kerala history was in Binale itself. There was inside this Aspen wall, there was a long hall which was filled with water by an artist, which is done as his artwork. But the problem that happened was none of the conservation architect was there in the panel. So they didn't know that if you fill water inside this hall, does this affect the building in a negative way? What happens afterwards? They really don't know. So when we do adaptive use, we have to have certain kind of experienced personality, so that they can help us what we have to do and what not to do. Then decisions has to be taken on that basis. So these are the several things that we have to look forward when we are addressing a heritage. So one thing, like I have already told you that I would be doing a case study on the basis of Kottagal. I know that the time has been little exceeded. I'll just go through the rest of my case study part quickly. So all these things which I said are the theories. So now I would be explaining exactly what it is when I did my studies, when I did on the live basis, and when I did my study on ground for my thesis, and this is live project right now, what exactly this theories was. So one more thing I need to tell you, actually my whole presentation was in English. ആർക്കെങ്കിലും പറയാൻ മലയാളത്തിൽ ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ചോദിക്കണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിലോ അങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ like you can really say that. So anyways, it's first years ഉണ്ടെന്ന് അറിയാം, and second years and final years എല്ലാവരും ഉണ്ടെന്ന് അറിയാം. So you can be free with me. മലയാളത്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കാം, പ്രശ്നമൊന്നുമില്ല. So we will carry forward with this presentation. So here, when I was doing my final year thesis, I was actually searching for my thesis topic. I was doing a lot of research throughout Pan Kerala, and I was searching a lot of things. And then I got to know that where I was living, I was holding to a place which is having a lot of heritage values and a lot of things. As in Kottakkal, we all, I mean, everybody, I mean, of course, people from Vedavyasa, everybody know what is Kottakkal. Kottakkal, we know Kottakkal for the Ayurvedic brand. We always know that Kottakkal Ayurvedishala, and this is where the Kottakkal's name made of. But what we don't know is that Kottakkal was way before was there, and the name of the Kottakkal had several significances. And that's the time that I got to know that Kottakkal is a place which had a fort. I mean, there was a fort which was still existing. There is a palace which is there, and the name Kottakkal came from the etymology called Kottakkal, which is called the Kota means fort and Kal means stone. So the fort which is made of stone, which later named as Kottakkal. And the names, and the most funniest part was the names which we use in our daily life was had stories behind us. As in so when I was doing this studies of the Kottakkal, so I had to understand the history when this Kottakkal has started. So I was looking at the different books. I mean, I started with the geography part. I studied Kottakkal in different layers. I took the geology, I took the water systems, I took different sections so that I can understand it, why Kottakkal came in this locality, what is the importance of these places. Then I get to know that there was a river and the Kottakkal, and that was a point which is covered with 3 hills around, which was like a natural fortification, so that they know where the enemies are coming in. And this flat land was an excellent place for agriculture purpose. And the river, and there was a small stream which is called as Puttur Lake Canal, which actually helping them to provide water for their settlement. So that's how the settlement started there. And most of the people don't know that Kottakkal was the granary for the entire Valluvanad and Eranad districts. And they used to send rice to all the kingdoms during the Chera dynasty. And after that, when the Samudris came also, Perumals came also, they used to be the rice ball of this entire Malabar region. And so when I started studying this, I got to know that the significance of the Kottakkal, why Kottakkal came, what is the historical significance, and what are the different layers that I need to check in. Then what I did was I have to understand the history. For that, I started reading the historical books. I started working on the history. I interviewed many people. And then I got the timeline, like from where did the Kottakkal started, and when did it became part of the Chera dynasty, what are the different systems. So all these systems, so all these histories help me to understand the city on a larger perspective, on a broader perspective. And it helped me to understand why these things came up, what are the importance, why the temple, I mean, there is a temple, there is a famous Shiva temple in Kottakkal, why the temple situated there, and what was the importance. And I went on the site visits, and we did several site visits, and we listed 400 heritage structures. I mean, I know it is very large. And even when we were explaining to the panel also, when I was explaining to the panel, even the panel was saying a city with 400 unlisted heritage structures, that is really a lot. So that is what we don't know, what exactly we are having. So then all these studies helped me to generate certain kind of map, which actually helped me to understand how the city evolved. So the first map that we are showing is that what is the dark green patch is the paddy field, and the small portion, I know this, it is little smaller scale, the maps are on the smaller scale. So what exactly I am showing is that how this dark green patch is the paddy fields. So how the paddy fields started expanding, and how the fortification came, how the settlement started expanding. So all these studies, I mean, help me to understand how the city evolved and what are the heritages and why these kind of heritages are located. So then this helped. Then later on, I mean, I made the heritage resource mapping. Heritage resource mapping is something which we do on the urban conservation basis, and the most people know that when people do on urban design studio, we do what are the heritages what we are having. I mean, we do a map which is showing all the heritage structures, typologies. I mean, different kind of. So we have to map in such a way that we have to understand the typology of the settlement. We have to understand the pattern, development pattern. We have to understand the modern buildings. We have to understand the threats. So all these study parts help me to. I mean, after the study part, I started analyzing my study. So this analyzing my study is something like I worked on the land use analysis, then the building height analysis, build system, and vernacular and modern build study. So this land use analysis helped me to understand different kind of I mean, land use patterns, as in when you have a temple and a fortification next to that, what exactly you are having. I mean, what are the things, what are the different items that what are the different typologies that you are getting, and where is, I mean, you can clearly see the blue patch here, which is the commercial hub. So I found the CBD, and the red part is the hospitals, which is the Ayurvedic Shala, which is mostly consisting of the institutions part. So there is always, when they were planning these institutions and everything, they always has a planning principle there. So all these kind of planning principle was sustainable at that time. Right now, what we are doing is that ribbon development, unsaturated planning, and we are not addressing any kind of factor, not even the environmental factors, none of the heritage factors also. Then next thing I did was the building height analysis. Why I did the building height analysis was, whenever in the olden times, when a heritage city is planned, the first thing that they used to understand, they used to look is the security. Because when I am putting a palace or a fort complex, the fort has to be on the highest level so that they can see the enemy coming from every direction. So it's the same thing that was happened in Kottagal also. There was some height restrictions. So when we look at the temple precinct, next to that temple, we only had a single story structures, and everything was the fort and the bastions. There was bastions all around the fort. The bastions was always on the higher ground, so that they know that were the people, who are the people coming there, and the security system was so perfect that they can see the enemies from miles ahead. So so these kind of things are we know from these kind of analysis. Then the build systems, which I already. The next part is the vernacular buildings and the modern buildings. So this study I did is to understand how much people are still carrying forward the vernacular constructions in Kottagal or in any city. So what I got to know that in our area, I mean, in Kerala or in any place, this vernacular buildings came to existence on on a recent basis. Like on the past 30 years, people were still following the traditional building techniques. People were still using the lime, and people were still using the wooden rafters, tile roof, and everything. So only after this, between this 30 years, the concrete building started into existence on a larger basis, like in most of our areas. So these kind of things help me to understand there are still vernacular techniques they are following, or there are still people who can follow these kind of techniques, which actually help me to understand more about the construction details. Then of course, when after doing this vernacular study, what we exactly did was about the build system and the intricate construction technologies which is there. So in this system, I actually got different kind of build systems. Such as build systems, there are a lot of building typologies like fort, temple, there are bastions, there are smaller temples, there are hospital, there is schools, there is masjid, there are hotels, the older version of hotels, and there are a lot of other structures which every typology has their own architectural style and architectural character. So this helped me to understand more about the temple and the traditional architecture style which was present there in this whole area, and which helped me to if I am doing some restoration work, if I'm doing some project, I can carry forward these kind of techniques, into my future projects here when I am addressing a heritage. Then the later part is the community ownership and the community analysis. We need to understand, in the olden times, we had right now we are living in a ward system. Our municipalities and our panchayats are having ward. But in the olden days, we have the system of Idavaga. Idavaga is mostly a Christian name, but the Idavaga is actually a name which is denominating like a character. Like if we could, I could say that we have several names called Nayadipara, Chaliyar Todi, and Changuviti, and there is Kundu Basar. Then there is a lot of names which actually says that this kind of Chaliyar Todi is a place or is a Idavaga where the weaving community was settling, and Nayadipara was the Idavaga in which the hunters, Nayadis are the older hunters, hunter community which was settling there. So all these kind of names which is still existing had a history today. So all these kind of community make us understand that there is like a community structure which was presented in the olden times, which we have to, we don't need to pass it on this caste system, but we have to understand this this etymologies of the name and all, and we have to. It's something that we just need to understand, learn about it. We don't need to. We are not carrying forward any kind of caste system, or we are not carrying forward any kind of diversification right now, but we just need to understand what exactly was happening in the olden days. And one more thing is that then when I started learning about this community analysis, then I got to know that how this religious structures came into existence. So there was this Muslim community, there was this Muslim community, there was this Hindu community, and there was this Christian community, which settled in different corners of these place, and which actually by mapping the religious structures helped me to understand why these communities settled there. Because Kottakkal was a place which was in the olden times, there was Hindu community was starting. Then later on, when the Samudris came into existence, Samudri kingdom was a very good for trading practices, and he actually invited the Arabs from Ponani and Muslim communities from Ponani, and he asked to settle here in one part of the city, so that he can start trading. And most beautiful part is that Kottakkal is having a market which is of 200 years old. 200 years old, and which was the largest cattle market throughout the Malabar. Kottakkal was the largest cattle market. So people who used to come here, and Arabs used to come here, sell their cattle, sell their other items in the market, and they used to go, and that market is still existing. You can see still the footprints and remnants of the heritage bazaar which is there. And later on, then I started working, studying the religious, festival things, different festival, not just about one community. There are different festival, festivals that is happening in Kottakkal throughout the year, and there are several festival processions also, as in processions also. And I started working, and why this processions is taking forward on this direction, why this is going on this road, why this is taking this turn. So all these kind of studies help me to understand that there are several temples on this route, and there are several religious structures on this route. So these kind of festivals was not just for one community. Kottakkal Puram, which was started as it was celebrated as a harvest festival by all community. There was no religious separation, there was no caste systems at that time, and there was none kind of variations, and there was no characteristics, and not characteristic, I can't say characteristics. There is no kind of barriers, which actually the people was together, and they actually started celebrating this festival as the festival for people. And not just here in Kottakkal, we can see a lot of festivals like this in all around the Kerala, which now people are trying to divide on the basis of religion, caste, and other barriers. That we have to understand this. What we are carrying forward is the simplest egoistic religious mentality, not the exact crude information what our ancestors were telling. So that's the ideology. So then later we started studying about the art forms and what are the different art forms. So all these, till this point I was saying about the tangible part of the part. Now this became the intangible part, and all these things are the intangible, the intangible things that we have to learn about a place. And later on, then I have to look into the modern scenarios. So I have to check whether how the road systems are developed and how the road is developing, what are the different developmental pressures that is happening in the heritage. So I made different notes, and I choose 2-3 notes, and I did the studies part, like where the major note are coming. Yeah. So these kind of studies helped us to understand the developmental pressures which is actually acting on the heritage structures. And then the end we went, I did the issues, which is actually I did on the different perspective. One was the ecological issues. The ecological issues always should be addressed when we are doing a heritage conservation, or when we are doing an urban conservation, because natural issues always will affect the heritage building. For the simplest example is that Kerala is facing a flood for the past 3-4 years. So the flood is not just affecting the normal modern buildings, also the heritage structures. So we have to understand the natural. So there would be some, because this flood was not happening for the past like many decades, and this flood suddenly in Kottakkal, the first flood was happened in 1920. So after that they actually made the drainage system so well that the flood didn't happen ever, and now the flood is happening due to some other reasons, and we have to address those issues, which will actually help the buildings, modern buildings, also the heritage structures. Later then I was looking into the height, building heights, and the aesthetic appealing of this, because always when we are designing, when the ancestors design a heritage structures, they had kind of vision, like what exactly my city should look like, what exactly these streets should be looking like. But right now the modern constructions has totally demolished and totally changed the look of the structures. Like imagine that if we have a temple, which is like the most simpler example, I could say that the Tali temple. And the Tali temple, when we go towards the Tali temple from one direction, we have a lot of 3-story structures, modern structures. All these modern structures are actually blocking the view towards the temple. So imagine that a person who designed that, an architect who designed it, like on a simpler way, if we design a building and we do have a road and we do have something, and we make the view on that side, and on the after some years somebody who design like a 6-story building next to our building, which totally covers our building. Imagine that feeling that is getting into an architect or the person who is living there. Or this is what we are doing. So we don't consider the heritage buildings in that perspective, but we have to consider it. And the other thing is that fire issues. I mean the heritage, because our buildings are majorly made of wood, and they mostly the fire highly inflammable materials. So we have to address the fire things also, because why I'm saying that, recently there was in Calicut itself, there was a lot of fire accidents. This was happening in Mitai River, and a lot of these this highly commercial areas, in which most people don't know whether when they are doing a wiring, on when they are doing some electrical works, are they exactly doing up to the mark, or this if this costs something. And the most shocking thing happened was in Madurai, the entire Madurai Meenakshi temple. Next to that, there was this Airam Kal Mandapam. This entire Airam Kal Mandapam got burnt, and even the pillars got deformed due to the fire. This happened from a single spark. I mean, single fire which came from a shop. So always these kind of when we are incorporating these kind of services into a heritage building, we have to be very careful when we do something, because we are actually doing something, we are actually disturbing the environment. Then the next one is the vandalism. Vandalism is something which even I thought vandalism is a very cool thing during my school days, because when we go to some heritage monuments or something, we used to write our names, right? You do because we used to mark something. Yeah, like I have been here, so people has to know. And when the most I mean heroistic example which we seen was Rang De Basandi. In Rang De Basandi and most of the movies, people used to paint this graffitis and all in this heritage structures like large walls, and they used to portray it as a heroic. But what exactly are we doing on this heritage structure? Are we changing the look of the heritage structure? To be frank, that is the vandalism that we are doing. We are changing some look, or we are changing the thing which is the, I mean, always this vandalism is a debate topic. Some people say that, like, from the artist perspective, when we do binale and all, on the artist perspective, people do that what we are doing is impression of the art. So it is always welcome, like people has to do their impressions on their heritage structures by art and all, but there should be some way that it won't affect the buildings on the later sites. Then the biological factors, which is like the floods and all, which I told. So all these kind of I mean studies will, I mean, help me to understand what are the problems which is there in Kottakkal. And later on, what I did, what we proposed was, I mean, the proposal is the major part. What we did was we divide the entire place into different zones, like zone 1, zone 2, and all these zones has different characters. And for each zones, we made separate proposal and separate plans, master plans. Like heritage zone 1 will be having different master plan, heritage zone 2 will be different, zone 7 and zone 8 is the ecological area with having the paddy field. And from after zoning this, doing the zoning part and understanding the zones, we did proposals on the basis of zones. I mean, we took different zones and we did proposals there. And like so all this we got, so there will be a lot of policies we will be making when we are doing an urban conservation or like a city conservation. But the later on we have to go deeper. The problem with our projects, majorly our urban design studio, is that we do our study extensively. Our studies are unmatchable. But when we do the proposal, because I am very sad to tell that when I was doing my BArch in TKM, we did Madurai. Madurai was an extensive study. Even the Madurai Corporation and most of the people actually commended us. But the proposal that I had given them was a public toilet. I mean, that was the, I mean, that is the problem that happened in our whole studio, that we have been doing this entire study for the entire semester. We didn't even thought of what we are giving there. So, but we didn't had enough time to do that. Finally, we made a proposal for our just for the sake of proposal, and we ended up, I ended up doing a public toilet for the Madurai. So that was that. I'm not doing that. Doing a public toilet is not a bad thing. Doing a public toilet is also a design proposal in an urban studio. But there were a lot of things that I could address there, which I was not addressing at that point. So as an architect, when you are doing an urban conservation or an urban design studio, you should address more relevant things, more relevant issues. So and that's what. So here we actually I was addressing the issues, like there was like a major heritage spine which is coming. We had the road expansion regulation. We had the developmental regulations, that is in the left corner of the slide. Then there was several so Then later on, there was a lot of, I already told that there was 400 heritage structures which I listed there. So what are the restoration and how can we renovate this heritage structure? So we made certain kind of legal outlines. How we can, if we have a residence, how I can, yeah, like imagine that I am having a residence which is like a single floor. So I have to take into 2 floors. So how can I do the construction? How can I extend my building? How can I change my plan? So we have to give some certain kind of constraints and all, which will retain the character of the building, but also the owner can increase. I mean, can use the building on a different perspective. Yes, Hanan. Hanan, can I answer your question after this discussion? Yeah, so let's move forward. So after that, so when we after doing all these studies and all, I mean, we have to do some on-site proposal. We have to take some on-site proposal. So for that, I actually choose this. There was this temple complex. Next to that, there was this unused temple pond complex, which is called as Kulapura, and which is in a highly dilapidated condition, which was in a very bad condition. So what I proposed was a heritage museum. Like imagine that Kottakkal, most of the people know Kottakkal for the Ayurvedic history, but they don't know where I mean, still there is a royal family living here. So we don't know what the Kottakkal is from 3rd century BC, and which was the actual history. So actually Kottakkal, so actually Kottakkal was missing like a place which can interpret its heritage values. So what I proposed was a heritage museum, which inside this Kolhapura complex, which I documented the heritage buildings and the heritage building. After this documentation, I did the proper study of the different techniques which is there in the heritage building, which will help me to improve the restoration techniques inside the heritage building. And after doing the installation, I have to preserve this building, and this building has to go on. So how I can do that? So as considering the heritage values and the ethical values of the building, what I proposed was a museum inside. So the museum was that I didn't do any kind of much of the construction there. What I used was the existing walls, and what I did was the existing plans and all. I did very minimal kind of changes and all. I did the planning thing. So in the ground floor, what we did was like a front office, then ticket counter, then we will be going to a souvenir shop, then we have a small restaurant. This Kolhapura had all the structure was jetting into this temple pond, which we gave like an outdoor seating, and there is a small library. There's an archival library in which we can access the library, and there will be archival documents which is there from the olden times. I mean, we can see it. So all these things were so this is one kind of the one kind of the thing. And in the first floor we had the general exhibition halls. So these are the some views that I generated for it, and that's it. So here what exactly we did was we try to keep up the general character of the building, and and these are the different things. So this is just a case study that I explained to you on the basis of what I explained it before. And now this is I mean, that's it. Thanks a lot. Now ആർക്കെങ്കിലും എന്തെങ്കിലും doubts എന്തെങ്കിലും കാര്യങ്ങളോ ഉണ്ടെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ you can ask me. I mean, which can be anything related to this presentation or anything related to heritage.
Yes, sir. Hi.
Yes.
Myself, Raymond William. So my thesis topic is something similar to this, and I've taken my thesis topic as Musser's heritage project, a heritage hub as a proposal.
Okay.
So one thing I have a doubt is about like നേരത്തെ സാർ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ വാൻഡലിസം. നമ്മളിപ്പോ ഒരു എക്സിസ്റ്റിംഗ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഹെറിറ്റേജ് ബിൽഡിങ്ങിനെ നമ്മൾ മ്യൂസിയം ആയിട്ട് കേരളത്തിൽ കണ്ടുവരുന്ന ഒരു ടെക്നിക്കാണ്, ലൈക്ക് റവന്യൂ ജനറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഒരു ഹെറിറ്റേജ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് എടുത്തിട്ട് അതിനകത്തോട്ട് മ്യൂസിയം ഇൻകോപ്പറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു സംഭവം. സോ അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഈ വാൻഡലിസം എത്രത്തോളം അതിനെ എഫക്ട് ചെയ്യും എന്നുള്ളത്, ആൾക്കാർ വിസിറ്റേഴ്സ് വരും, ഇപ്പൊ ടൂറിസത്തിന്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് നടക്കുമ്പോൾ എത്രത്തോളം ആൾക്കാർ ഈ പറയുന്ന കൺസർവേഷന് ലൈക്ക് ഇപ്പൊ നമുക്കൊക്കെ കൺസർവേഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ ഒരു കോൺസെപ്റ്റ് വന്നു, പക്ഷെ ജനറൽ പബ്ലിക്കിന് ഇറ്റ്സ് മോർ ഓഫ് ലൈക്ക് എ ഫൺ. ദേ ഗെറ്റ് ഇൻ ടു ദ ബിൽഡിംഗ്, ദേ ഡു സ്റ്റഫ് ലൈക്ക് ദാറ്റ്, and there is a chance of like process get destroyed, right, sir?
Yes. So this is that's what I was previously telling. And നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ കാര്യം തന്നെ, vandalism is always a debate topic. I mean, vandalism എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, I mean, for some people it's an art, like their expression, or they are trying to express what they are doing. പക്ഷേ when we are looking into vandalism, we have to make people aware that you are not allowed to do that. It's something like when you write stick no bills and somebody is coming there and putting the posters there. So it's the same concept. So this is what that's a general idea. Like the problem what we are having with our Indian society, majorly like most, not just Indian society, vandalism is there throughout the world. But what we can actually do something on the public property, what we can do on the public property. So it's the only thing that we can do is that impose fines. I mean, in every heritage structures we have to include cameras, I mean proper surveillance systems, security systems. As anybody is doing any kind of vandalism there, yeah, they should be punished. I mean, like right now, archaeological ASI has this rule that if any person is doing vandalism, he would be charged in the fine of 10,000 to 1 lakh. So
yes,
if
sir.
he's caught,
yeah, because in most cases when I've seen Hampi poലുള്ള heritage സ്ഥലങ്ങളിലൊക്കെ people are like let in randomly, right? ആരും അവരെ ഗൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല. So there is a tendency that people may like disturb the heritage buildings.
So this is where we can actually think of the public-private partnership. Like what exactly the government doesn't have is that government has a basic fund. Like Archaeological Survey of India has a basic fund to do the restoration techniques, but they don't have the enough fund to do this fancy surveillance system, security system, so that it actually helps this. So by doing this private PPP, private public partnership, we can actually incorporate the private parties to fund the World Heritage Site. There has been several World Heritage Sites in India. So all these sites, they can do camera installations, they can do proper security systems, which will help to stop vandalism. And in most of the monuments in Delhi, what they have did was they have done these barricades. So we can't cross these barricades. So, and there will be proper securities there. So they will, if anybody crosses this barricade, they will be stopped, and they will be monitored properly. So this is the only thing that we can do on a heritage. But still the problem is that even we are having heritage sites more than almost like 10,000 heritage sites, maybe it's more than 50,000 heritage sites all over the India. So installing all these things in this unidentified heritage sites is really thing. But the only thing, like imagine that, I don't know where you are exactly from, but if any heritage sites are there next to your place, you have to create an awareness so that people won't go and do something on the building. So the same thing that happened in Kondoti, when the Ikra Sufi festival happened there, people started addressing the heritage, people started addressing the masjid, people started addressing the residents next to that. Now it is conserved in such a way that nobody will go and do a vandalism there. So it's the feeling has to be coming from inside, like this building is part of me also. This, if I do something on it, it is like I am doing something on myself. So we have to make people understand it. So that is the only thing.
Yes, sir.
So is there anybody else? And the any varendengilum undo?
No, sir.
Hello. Arida, S5 students ആരെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ? Okay. Anybody else?
ആരോ ഒരാൾ ഇടയ്ക്ക് കൈ പൊക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. എനിക്ക് അറിയില്ല ആക്ച്വലി പ്രസന്റേഷൻ എത്രത്തോളം യൂസ്ഫുൾ ആയിട്ടുണ്ടെന്ന്. കാരണം എന്താ വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഞാൻ ഒരുപാട് കോൺസെപ്റ്റ്സ് കവർ ചെയ്യാൻ ശ്രമിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് ഇതിനകത്ത്. സോ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഡൗട്ട്സോ എന്തെങ്കിലും കാര്യം ഉണ്ടെന്നുണ്ടെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ യു ക്യാൻ ആസ്ക് മീ ആൻഡ് ഡോണ്ട് ഹെസിറ്റേറ്റ്. ഇതൊരു ഫ്രണ്ട്ലി ഇന്ററാക്ഷൻ ആണ്. അതിനകത്ത് നിങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കുന്ന ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസിനെ വെച്ച് ആരും നിങ്ങൾ ജഡ്ജ് ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നില്ല. സോ ചോദിക്കാം.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Anand, for this very informative talk. I think you have provided a very brief, not very brief, but a very detailed insight about conservation. What exactly a conservation architect is involved in, and what exactly what he has to do. So I think that was very informative. I think most of our students would have got a very brief idea of what a conservation architect is. So I think you have covered most of the theoretical concepts in conservation and the different kinds of conservation that we actually do. And also you have provided, I think there's a very detailed practical approach to conservation through your project at Kottakkal. So I think that was very informative. There are there are a demonstration of the graphics and various the drawings that you do as a conservation architect. So I think that was very well taken, and I think most of you would have got a very nice, very informative idea on what conservation is about. So I will just put in a few, a couple of questions. Like one is in terms of the conservation, it definitely demands a lot of data collection.
Yes,
these data collections are generally not directly available. You need to dig deep into the resources that are available and that are very obviously available, and you have to find out where from you get this. And what are the basic, the ways in which you start, collecting this information, and how do you actually find out which are the places from where you can actually get this data? Is there anything that any standard procedure that you follow, and any details regarding that?
Sir, actually this is like a very tedious process. So when I was doing my research on the Kottakkal itself, there was only very little data which is present in for the outside world. So one part is that books are the major source, but the thing is that we have to be so sure that the books that we are reading is authentical. So because always the history is something which could be manipulated by any person. Like the same thing, the simplest example is that when we were considering about the Perindachan, so we in the olden folklore says that Perindachan actually killed his son. So but in the later days there was an interpretation saying that it was an accident that happened by him. So there is so always these kind of history. So the books that we are reading, books is a major thing that we have to get the history, dig out the history from. So later part we have to do the interviews. We have to do the interviews with the most resourceful person, like the archaeologists, historians, so that we can understand the contradictions. Like in the Kottakkal itself, when I was doing, there was several contradictions in the history that I could find out when I was reading a book. So I was not checking with a single book. I was working on different book. I read the Malabar manual. I checked out many of the historical documents. I went to the Cochin library. I went to the Samudri's library. So there were several things, and later on, one important data that we could get is the maps, archival maps. We have to read the maps. We have to understand what exactly the map says. So all these things can be, all these things will be just one page of the entire study. But when we really read it on a holistic way, we will get the entire story. So that's how the process is. So, and one more thing, sir, there is another problem is that I told you already that every project methodology is different. The methodology that I did for Kottakkal won't work for any other city. Maybe I was doing that won't work for, maybe it won't work for any other city. So we always have to evolve our methodology according to different cities. I did. The way that we did Madurai was not the way that I did my project. And the way I did my other studios, like I did Delhi was my first studio, second studio was Bundi, and the third studio was Uttarakhand, Dehradun. So all these cities had a different kind of methodology. So data collection is actually up to the person who is doing it, but the person has to be so sure, because I am giving you some data and I'm trying to incorporate some knowledge. So I have to be so sure that what I am saying is right in front of you. If somebody get to know that what I said is wrong because I am a researcher, I am doing research. So that would be very shameful for my research also. So the things that I am telling should be that proper.
Okay, thank you. One more thing is, I think most of the students would be like wanting to know, like where does the conservation architect stand, and what is his scope in present the market of architecture or in the field of architecture, and where does the conservation architect stand?
Sir, conservation, like basically, I really need to tell one thing, that I don't really say that I am a conservation architect. Like for me, conservation is an ideology. So it's something that whether that we take on site, whether we should keep it or we should demolish it or we should reconstruct it. That's an ideology that we always try to. So it's part of it's inside me. So it's always like I am being an architect. So as a conservation architect, what I learned is more detail about the materials, about the techniques. So being an architect, maybe I won't be doing that. So like simple, if I am getting a building before I am doing conservation architecture masters, I would have just used cement and I would have changed the entire look of the building. I would have used modern building materials. But these kind of modern building materials won't be feasible for the building. I mean, it won't be feasible for the building in the scientific manner, also in the aesthetic manner. So, but being an conservation architect, there is a lot of research purpose that I am doing, like whether I should reconstruct this with lime, I should use lime, or could I use cement, like, and most of the buildings are made of wooden members. For us, like wood is the major member in the Kerala traditional architecture. So should I use the wooden member itself, or I can use steel rafters or something like that? What are the material changes? So all these kind of decision could be only taken by a specialized person. It's the same like, sir, we are going for structural. I mean, for the structural, we are sending the drawing to a structural engineer to do the structural correction. So it's the same perspective. And in the current market scenario, India. Kerala and India is a country which is having an immense heritage and a lot of things. So the market is always there. But the only thing is that it's survival of the fittest. I mean, if you are having good ideology and if you are really good at what you are doing, practicing, and you can really do excellence on this project. Like, I know people who had only 6 years of career or maybe 5 years of career, who do excellent work in conservation. Even I have my seniors who are just passed out from the college, who are working under several big companies, under several monuments in as a restoration and conservation architect. And so it's all about what exactly your practice is. Same like the architecture.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? You can come forward.
Yes, sir. As you said, like in Kottakkal itself, we all have already like 400 unidentified heritage buildings. So I hope there will be like several more other buildings, like heritage-related buildings, which has been not identified by the government and not being protected or like left over like that. So, what is your stand on that? Or should government form a committee to identify such?
The problem with is in our country, 80% of the heritage buildings are inside the private properties. Only the 20% is under the government rule or government governance. So the problem that we have to why I decided to do Kottakkal was before I was planning to work on Kondoti. Then what I had in mind, what Kondoti was like an old heritage street. There was this Parangadi was there, which is having lot of old buildings, heritage buildings, traditional buildings. But when I went to the site, they actually demolished the entire structures because it was not listed. Because it was under private property. If I am having a private property and it's not listed, I can demolish it. It's my thing. So when we see a heritage city, or when we look into a heritage city, the first thing that we have to do is that the listing of the buildings, and we have to approach the government, or we have to approach some body, some NGO, or some, like there are several organizations like Intact, State Archaeology, ASI, I mean Archaeological Survey of India. There are several institutions in India which actually helps in listing the buildings. And once the buildings is listed, we can actually do the restoration work. Until the building is listed, we can't do anything. So whenever you actually do whenever you actually address a building, if the owner is ready to conserve it, or if the owner is ready to move, I mean, do something on the heritage structure, otherwise you have to make sure the building will be listed. Building is listed. Otherwise, what exactly they would do, that they would demolish it in an overnight. They would do construct an old this thing. Because I'll tell you the saddest example that happened in the Indian history. When we were doing the Delhi studio, there was 7 cities in Delhi, and one of the city was the Siri, and the Siri was the most beautiful city which is made in Delhi, which had the fort complexes and everything, which was made by Alauddin Khilji, and most ruthless ruler ever ruled in Delhi. So, but when the Delhi was expanding, what government did was government digged out the entire monuments and the entire archaeological things, and they constructed an entire sports complex. Right now, we can't say that there is a fort. There is only 3 walls which is remaining there, and which we are trying to conserve it right now. And the rest of the thing, the history is unknown. We don't know what exactly the fort was, what was what is the buildings inside, what was the extent. We don't know anything about it. So this is the problem. That's why, there is no code of conduct. Proper code of conduct, I could say that you have to follow this rule. I mean, it is something that you have to try and experiment on every site. Every site will be like a new story for you. Yes, sir. Sir, is there anything else?
Anyone else? Anyone? I think we are already behind schedule.
But I guess Ritul is trying to ask something.
Yes.
Ritul, you're having audio problems. We're not able to hear you. You try using a headphone.
Hello?
Yeah, now.
സാറ് പറയണ്ടായി നമ്മുടെ 100 വർഷത്തിൽ കൂടുതലുള്ള ഒരു ബിൽഡിങ്ങിനെ നമുക്ക് ഒരു ഹെറിറ്റേജ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് ആയി കൺസിഡർ ചെയ്യാന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഇപ്പൊ പലപ്പോഴും എന്താ പറയാ, ഒരു കഫറ്റീരിയ ഒക്കെ നമ്മൾ വിസിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് വീണ്ടും അവര് ആ ഒരു ഹെറിറ്റേജ് ഫീൽഡിലേക്ക് അവര് ആ ഒരു ബിൽഡിങ്ങിന്റെ ഇന്റീരിയർ ഒക്കെ കൊണ്ടുപോകാൻ ശ്രമിക്കാറുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ 100 വർഷത്തിനിടയിലും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ആ പണ്ടത്തെ 100 വർഷത്തിന്റെ ഈ ഒരു ഗ്യാപ്പിന്റെ ഇടയിൽ എവിടെയോ വെച്ച് നമുക്കത് ഹെറിറ്റേജ് നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു എന്നല്ല അത് മീനിങ് ആക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ആ ഒരു ഇതിന്റെ ഇടയിൽ എന്താണ് സംഭവിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്? ആ ഒരു 100 വർഷത്തിന്റെ ഇടയിൽ എവിടെയോ വെച്ച് നമുക്ക് നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു എന്നല്ല അത് മീൻ ചെയ്യുന്നത്.
അത് ആക്ച്വലി അതൊരു നമ്മുടെ ഒരു ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടില് നടക്കുന്ന ഒരു സംഭവം എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടില് നമ്മുടെ തന്നെ ഒരു സെൽഫ് അപ്ഗ്രേഡേഷൻ ഒരു സമയത്ത് നമ്മുടെ കുടുംബങ്ങളിൽ സംഭവിച്ചിരുന്നതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, ഓടിട്ട വീടിൽ നിന്ന് കോൺക്രീറ്റ് വീടിലോട്ട് മാറുന്നതാണ് നമ്മുടെ സെൽഫ് അപ്ഗ്രേഡേഷൻ ആയിട്ട് നമ്മൾ കൺസിഡർ ചെയ്തത്. അതായത് നമ്മളെല്ലാവരും അങ്ങനെ പറയുന്നത്. നമ്മളെല്ലാവരും ഇപ്പൊ എൻ്റെ തന്നെ ആൻസെസ്ട്രൽ ഹൗസസിലൊക്കെ സംഭവിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളതെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അവർ പറയുന്നത്, ഓടിട്ട വീടിട്ട് ഐ മീൻ അവൻ കോൺക്രീറ്റ് ഇട്ട വീട്ടിലോട്ട് മാറി, അവന് കാശുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിലാണ് മാറിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. അപ്പം ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ളൊരു സൊസൈറ്റിയുടെ മെന്റാലിറ്റി ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്ത സമയത്താണ് നമുക്ക് എവിടെയോ ഹെറിറ്റേജ് ബിൽഡിങ്സിന്റെ ഒരു എന്താ പറയാ ഒരു അപ്പീലും ഹെറിറ്റേജ് ബിൽഡിങ്സിനോടുള്ള ഒരു മെന്റാലിറ്റി തന്നെ മാറിപ്പോയത്. പിന്നെ നമ്മൾ എന്താ ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നതെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഹെറിറ്റേജ് ബിൽഡിങ്സ് പൊതുവെ സംഭവിക്കുന്നത് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ ഹെറിറ്റേജ് ബിൽഡിങ്സിലെ ഒരു സിംഗിൾ ഓണർഷിപ്പ് അല്ല വരിക. ഇപ്പം എന്റെ തന്നെ ഈ പ്രൊജക്റ്റിൽ ഉണ്ടായ ഒരു പ്രശ്നം ഞാൻ കാണിച്ചു തരാം. ഇപ്പം ഈ പറയുന്ന കോട്ടക്കലിലെ ഞാൻ ലാസ്റ്റ് കാണിച്ച കൊളപ്പുരയുടെ ലൈവ് പ്രൊജക്ട് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ലൈവ് ആവാൻ പോവാണ്. ഇറ്റ്സ് അബൌട്ട് ടു ഹാപ്പൻ. അപ്പം ദേ ആർ റെഡി ടു ഡു ഇറ്റ്. പക്ഷേ ഇതെന്താ സംഭവിച്ചതെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ വെൻ ദി പാർട്ടീഷൻ ഹാപ്പൻ, ഈ കോവിലകത്തിന്റെ പാർട്ടീഷൻ നടന്ന സമയത്ത് ഇത് 200 കുടുംബങ്ങളിലേക്കാണ് പാർട്ടീഷൻ ചെയ്തു പോയത്. അതായത് ഈ കുളപ്പുരയ്ക്ക് 200 അവകാശികളുണ്ട്, 200 ഫാമിലി അവകാശികളുണ്ട്. സോ ഞാൻ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു കാര്യം ഈ കുളപ്പുരയിലോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ പാലസ് കോംപ്ലക്സിലോ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു കാര്യം ചെയ്യണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ 200 പേരുടെ പെർമിഷൻ എടുക്കണം. അതായത് 200 കുടുംബങ്ങളെ ഞാൻ പേഴ്സണലി പോയി കണ്ട് അവരുടെ ഓരോ ആൾക്കാരുടെ NOC നോൺ ഒബ്ജക്ഷൻ സർട്ടിഫിക്കറ്റ് മേടിച്ചിട്ട് വേണം ഞാൻ ഈ ഒരു വർക്ക് അവിടെ തുടങ്ങാൻ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എൻ്റെ ഒരു പ്രൊജക്ട് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ. അപ്പം പൊതുവെ അതായത് ഒരു ആർക്കിടെക്റ്റിനെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം ഈ 200 പേരെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു 100 പേരെ ഒരു 50 പേരെയൊക്കെ പോയി കാണാന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇറ്റ്സ് നെവർ ഗോണ ഹാപ്പൻ. അത് അത്രയും ഒരു ടീഡിയസ് പ്രോസസ്സാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഇത് പലരും ചെയ്യാതെ പോകുന്നത്. കാരണം ഒരുപാട് കൺസർവേഷൻ പ്രൊജക്ട്സും വെളിച്ചം കാണാത്തതിന്റെ മേജർ റീസൺ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അങ്ങനെ ഒരു കാര്യമാണ്. സോ ഇതാണ് അതിന്റെ ഒരു ഇഷ്യൂ ആയിട്ട് വരുന്നത്. പിന്നെ നമുക്കുള്ളതെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇപ്പൊ എന്താ സംഭവിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഹെറിറ്റേജ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഫാസിനേഷൻ ആണ് ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ. അതായത് നമ്മൾ എന്താ ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്, നമ്മൾ മിമിക് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. നമ്മൾ ആക്ച്വൽ ഹെറിറ്റേജിനല്ല നമ്മൾ കാണിക്കുന്നത്. നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുന്നത് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു റെസ്റ്റോറന്റ് ചെയ്യുകയാണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ആന്റീക് ഷോപ്പിൽ പോയിട്ട് നമ്മൾ കുറെ ആന്റീക് ലൈറ്റ്സ് മേടിക്കും, കുറെ ഇത് മേടിച്ചിട്ട് അതിനെ നമ്മൾ ആസ് എൻ ആർക്കിടെക്ട് ഒരു ഇന്റീരിയർ ഡിസൈനറെ പോലെ നമ്മൾ അതെല്ലാം ഒന്ന് പ്രോപ്പർലി ഡിസൈൻ ചെയ്ത് അതിനൊന്ന് നല്ലൊരു 3D ഒക്കെ ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്കത് നല്ല രീതിയിൽ എക്സിക്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യാം. പക്ഷേ നമ്മൾ ആലോചിക്കേണ്ടത് നമ്മൾ അവിടുത്തെ ഹിസ്റ്ററിയെ തന്നെയാണോ നമ്മൾ മുന്നോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നത് എന്നാണ് നമ്മൾ ആലോചിക്കേണ്ടത്. അപ്പം അതാണ് ആസ് എ കൺസർവേഷൻ ആർക്കിടെക്ട് ആൻഡ് ആർക്കിടെക്ട് ഞാൻ ഇപ്പോഴും പറയുന്നു, ഒരു ആർക്കിടെക്റ്റിനും കൺസർവേഷൻ ചെയ്യാം. ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് മാൻഡേറ്ററി ദാറ്റ് യു ഹാവ് ടു ബി എ കൺസർവേഷൻ ആർക്കിടെക്ട് ടു ഡു കൺസർവേഷൻ. ഇറ്റ്സ് ജസ്റ്റ് ആൻ ഐഡിയോളജി. അത് എളുപ്പത്തിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പറഞ്ഞു തരാൻ പറ്റുന്ന എന്താന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, നമ്മളെല്ലാവരും മുറി എടുക്കാറുണ്ട്. നമ്മൾ മുറി എടുക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് നമ്മൾ എന്താ ചെയ്യാന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ നമ്മൾ 2 ബോക്സ് കീപ്പ് ചെയ്യും. ഒരു ബോക്സിൽ നമ്മൾ മുന്നോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോകേണ്ട സാധനങ്ങൾ, അതായത് നമ്മൾ റൂമിൽ വെക്കേണ്ട സാധനങ്ങൾ കീപ്പ് ചെയ്യും, ഒരു ബോക്സിൽ നമ്മൾ കളയേണ്ട കാര്യങ്ങൾ കീപ്പ് ചെയ്യും. അപ്പം ഈ ഡിസിഷൻ നമ്മൾ സ്വന്തം ലൈഫിൽ ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ്. ഇത് ഒരു ബ്രോഡർ പെർസ്പെക്റ്റീവിൽ നമ്മളൊരു ബിൽഡിങ്ങിൽ ചെയ്യുന്നതെന്നുള്ളൂ. സോ വാട്ട് വി ആർ ഡൂയിങ് ഇസ് ദാറ്റ് ഓൺ സൈറ്റിൽ നമ്മൾ എന്തൊക്കെ നിലനിർത്തണം, എന്തൊക്കെ കളയണം എന്നുള്ളത് നമ്മളവിടെ തീരുമാനിക്കുന്നു, അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ. പക്ഷേ ഇത് ചെയ്യുന്നത് കൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ ബിൽഡിങ്ങിന്റെ ക്യാരക്ടർ മാറ്റരുത് ഒരിക്കലും. ഇപ്പം എനിക്ക് തന്നെ പരിചയമുള്ള കൺസർവേഷൻ ആർക്കിടെക്ട് ഉണ്ട്. ലൈക്ക് ഓൺ പേപ്പർ വാട്ട് ദേ വിൽ ബി സേയിങ് ഈസ് ദേ ആർ ഡൂയിങ് എത്തിക്കൽ വർക്ക്. അത് എത്തിക്കൽ വർക്ക്സ് ഫോളോ ചെയ്ത്, അതേപോലെ തന്നെ ഓൺ സൈറ്റിൽ ഒട്ടും എത്തിക്സ് ഇല്ലാതെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആൾക്കാരുണ്ട്. അപ്പം അങ്ങനെയുള്ള പ്രാക്ടീസ് നമ്മൾ ഫോർവേഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ എന്താ ചെയ്യുന്നത് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ബേസിക് നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ച റൂൾസ് ആണ് നമ്മൾ ബ്രേക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. മനസ്സിലായില്ലേ? സോ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങളുണ്ട് ഇതിനകത്ത്. കൺസർവേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഒരു 2 hour ടോക്കോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു 1 hourലും ശരിക്കും തീരില്ല. ഇറ്റ്സ് എ ലൈഫ് ടൈം ടോപ്പിക്. പിന്നെ എനിക്ക് പറയാനുള്ള, നിങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവരും ആസ് എൻ ആർക്കിടെക്ട് എവ്രിബഡി വിൽ ബി addressing one heritage project in lifetime. So അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് you have to be very careful that what you are working on is a old person. നിങ്ങളൊരു പഴയ നമ്മുടെ ഒരു അമ്മുമ്മയോ ഒരു അപ്പനെയോ അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന പോലെ, അവരെ വെച്ച് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന പോലെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. They had sentiments, they had lot to tell, they had different stories. So we have to take care of them in such a way that they have to be living in ourselves, inside us.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? ആർക്കെങ്കിലും എന്തെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ? ഹരിത? No.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
So actually I have some doubts regarding school conservation.
Okay.
തലശ്ശേരി ഒരു സ്കൂൾ ഉണ്ട് സർ, BEMP എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു സ്കൂള്. അത് അറൌണ്ട് 163 ഇയേഴ്സിന് മേലെയാ ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ട്. അത് ബ്രിട്ടീഷ് ആ ഒരു ടൈമിലാ ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടായത്. അപ്പോ അതെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല് ഇപ്പോ അവിടെ ആ ഒരു ബിൽഡിംഗ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ആ ഒരു ബ്രിട്ടീഷ് ടൈമിൽ കെട്ടിയ ബിൽഡിങ്ങില് ഒരു 4 to 10 വരെയിലെ ക്ലാസ്സസ് ആണുള്ളത്. അതിന്റെ ബാക്കിൽ കുറച്ചൊരു സ്പേസ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അവര് ഇപ്പോ 11th ഉം 12th ഉം വരുന്ന ഒരു ക്ലാസ്സസിന് ഒരു ബിൽഡിംഗ് കെട്ടിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ആക്ച്വലി ഒരു ഡിഫറെന്റ് ടൈപ്പ് ഓഫ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് തന്നെ ആയിട്ടാണ്. നമ്മളെ ബ്രിട്ടീഷ് സ്റ്റൈലിലെ ബിൽഡിംഗ് ആയിട്ടല്ല അവരെ കെട്ടിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. അപ്പോ ഇപ്പത്തെ ആ ബ്രിട്ടീഷ് സ്റ്റൈലിലെ ബിൽഡിംഗ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല് ഫുള്ള് കുറെ ഡെമോളിഷ് ആയിട്ടും പോകുന്നുണ്ട്. പിന്നെ അതിന്റെ വുഡൻ ഫ്ലോർസ് ആയാലും അതെല്ലാം ഫുള്ള് അവർ കോൺക്രീറ്റ് അതെല്ലാം യൂസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് അങ്ങനെ മാറ്റാനുള്ളൊരു ഇതിലാണുള്ളത്. അപ്പൊ അത് എങ്ങനെ നമ്മൾ ഒരു കൺസർവേഷൻ വേയിൽ അത് ചെയ്തെടുക്കും, ആ ഒരു സ്റ്റൈൽ എങ്ങനെ മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്ത് ഇതാക്കാൻ പറ്റും സർ? ആ ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു ഡൗട്ട് ആയിരുന്നു.
ഓക്കെ, അത് ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇതേ സെയിം ഇഷ്യൂ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇവിടെ ഞങ്ങൾ ഞാൻ ഇതേപോലെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്തൊരു പ്രൊജക്ട് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ആക്ച്വലി അവിടെ എന്തായിരുന്നു ഞങ്ങൾ ചെയ്തതെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അവിടുത്തെ സ്കൂൾ ഇതേപോലെ തന്നെ കോട്ടപ്പടി സ്കൂളായിരുന്നു, മലപ്പുറം കോട്ടപ്പടി സ്കൂൾ. അതിന് 150 കൊല്ലത്തെ വർഷം പഴക്കമുണ്ട്. അതായത് ബ്രിട്ടീഷേഴ്സുകാരുണ്ടാക്കിയ സ്കൂളാണ്. അപ്പൊ അത് ഇവിടുത്തെ മോസ്റ്റ്ലി ഉള്ള മെയിൻ സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ് എല്ലാം ബ്രിട്ടീഷേഴ്സുകാരുണ്ടാക്കിയ സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ്. അതിനകത്ത് കുറെ സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ് ഡിലാപ്പിഡേറ്റഡ്, അതായത് ഡിമോളിഷ് ആവാറായിട്ടുള്ള കണ്ടീഷനിലായിരുന്നു. സോ ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള പ്രൊജക്ട്സ് നമ്മൾ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് നമ്മൾ ഫസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടത് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ നമ്മൾ ആദ്യം ആ ബിൽഡിങ്സ് ഡോക്യുമെന്റ് ചെയ്യണം. ആ ബിൽഡിങ്സ് ഡോക്യുമെന്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഗ്രേഡ് ചെയ്യണം. അതായത് ഏതൊക്കെ ബിൽഡിങ്സിനാണ് എന്തൊക്കെ ഇഷ്യൂസ് ആണുള്ളത് എന്നുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഗ്രേഡ് ചെയ്തതിനു ശേഷം നമ്മളിപ്പം അത് ഗവൺമെന്റ് സ്കൂളാണല്ലോ, ഒബ്വിയസ്ലി നമുക്ക് ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ പ്രൊപ്പോസൽ കൊടുക്കാം. അതായത് ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് സ്കൂള്, സോ നമുക്ക് ഇതിനൊരു ആർക്കിടെക്ചറൽ ക്യാരക്ടർ ഉണ്ട്, ഇതിനൊരു ഹിസ്റ്റോറിക്കൽ സിഗ്നിഫിക്കൻസ് ഉണ്ട്, സോ വി ക്യാൻ കൺസർവ് ദിസ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്കൊരു പബ്ലിക് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ്, അതായത് PIL ഫയൽ ചെയ്യാം, പബ്ലിക് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ലിറ്റിഗേഷൻ. അതായത് ഇപ്പം സിമ്പിൾ കാര്യമാണ്, ഇപ്പം നിങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവരും കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടാവും ഇപ്പം നടക്കാവുള്ള ഒരു ഗവൺമെന്റ് സ്കൂളിന്റെ സ്റ്റോറി. അതായത് നടക്കാവുള്ള ഒരു ഫിഷറീസ് ഗവൺമെന്റ് സ്കൂള് വളരെ മോശം കണ്ടീഷൻ ആയിരുന്നു. അവിടെ സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ല, അവിടെ ടീച്ചേഴ്സ് എല്ലാം സ്കൂള് പൂട്ടാറായിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു അവസ്ഥയിലായിരുന്നു. അവിടെ ഒരു അലുമിനി വന്നിട്ട് ആ സ്കൂളിന്റെ തന്നെ മുഖച്ഛായ മാറ്റിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. എന്നിട്ട് ഇപ്പം ആ കോഴിക്കോടുള്ള ഏറ്റവും ഇതായിട്ടുള്ള, അതായത് ഏറ്റവും ആൾക്കാര് ചേരാൻ ട്രൈ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ഗവൺമെന്റ് സ്കൂളാണ് അത്, നടക്കാവ് സ്കൂൾ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഇത് സംഭവിച്ചത് എന്താന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു പേഴ്സന്റെ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിലാണ് സംഭവിച്ചത്. സോ വാട്ട് എക്സാക്ട്ലി യു ക്യാൻ ഡു ദാറ്റ്, നിങ്ങൾക്കൊരു അലുമിനി അസോസിയേഷൻ വെക്കാം. ഈ അലുമിനി അസോസിയേഷനിൽ ഒരുപാട് പേരുണ്ടാവും. അപ്പം ചിലപ്പോൾ ഇതൊരു സിംഗിൾ ആൾക്ക് ഇതിന്റെ റീസ്റ്റോറേഷൻ വർക്കിനെ പറ്റി, ഇപ്പൊ സർക്കാരിന് ഇതിന്റെ ഫണ്ട് റേസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റിക്കോണമെന്നില്ല. കാരണം സർക്കാരിന് ഓരോ സ്കൂളിലും ഇത്ര ഫണ്ട്സ് ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പം ആസ് എൻ ആർക്കിടെക്ട് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്താ ചെയ്യാന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇപ്പൊ ആ സ്കൂളുമായിട്ട് പേഴ്സണലി അടുപ്പമുണ്ടെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ യു ക്യാൻ ഡു ആൻ അലുമിനി അസോസിയേഷനിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഒരു റീസ്റ്റോറേഷൻ കമ്മിറ്റി വെക്കാം. അതിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അവിടെ പഠിച്ച അലുമിനീസിനെ കൊണ്ട് ഫണ്ട് റേസ് ചെയ്യാം. ഇപ്പൊ ഒരു 150 കൊല്ലം പഴക്കമുള്ള അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു 160 കൊല്ലം പഴക്കമുള്ള ഒരു സ്കൂൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അവിടെ പഠിച്ചു പോയ ആൾക്കാരുടെ എണ്ണം തന്നെ ഏകദേശം 1 ലക്ഷം രൂപ, 1 ലക്ഷം ആൾക്കാരോ 2 ലക്ഷം ആൾക്കാരോ, ചിലപ്പോൾ മോർ ദാൻ ദാറ്റ്, അത്രയും പേര് വരുന്നുണ്ടാവും. അപ്പം അത്രയും പേര് പഠിച്ച സ്കൂളിൽ നിന്ന് നമുക്ക് ഒരു അലുമിനി അസോസിയേഷൻ വെച്ചിട്ട് ഏകദേശം നമുക്ക് കുറച്ചൊരു ഫണ്ടൊക്കെ റേസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. ചിലപ്പോ വി ക്യാൻ ആക്ച്വലി ഡു ദി കൺസർവേഷൻ വർക്ക്സ് ആൻഡ് കൺസർവേഷൻ പ്രൊജക്ട്. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ജനറൽ അവയർനെസ് പ്രോഗ്രാംസ് ഒക്കെ വെച്ചിട്ട് ആക്ച്വലി നമുക്ക് ഒരു ഇത് ചെയ്യണം. പിന്നെ ഇതേപോലൊരു സ്കൂളോ എന്തെങ്കിലും ചെയ്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മൾ ആദ്യം ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്, ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞൊരു കാര്യമാണ്, അത് ലിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ ശ്രമിക്കണം. അതായത് ഇപ്പൊ ഗവൺമെന്റ് സ്കൂൾ ആണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ലിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു പ്രശ്നവുമില്ല. കാരണം എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു സ്കൂൾ നമ്മൾ ലിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു അസോസിയേഷന്റെ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷന്റെ അണ്ടറിൽ ലിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അവരുടെ റെഗുലേഷൻസും റൂൾസും ഉണ്ടാവും. നമ്മൾ അവിടെ ഒരു റീസ്റ്റോറേഷൻ വർക്കോ കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ വർക്കോ എന്തെങ്കിലും ചെയ്യുന്നതിന്. സോ അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് നമുക്ക് എന്താ സംഭവിക്കാന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, കുറെയൊക്കെ അവര് അതിനകത്ത് ഉള്ള ബിൽഡിങ്ങിന്റെ ഈ ക്രൈറ്റീരിയസും ക്യാരക്ടേഴ്സും കീപ്പ് ചെയ്തിട്ടായിരിക്കും കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ പോകുന്നത്. ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മള് ഇപ്പം കോട്ടപ്പടിയൊക്കെ ചെയ്ത, മലപ്പുറം സ്കൂളിലൊക്കെ ചെയ്തത് എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഫൈനലി നമ്മളത് സർവേ ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യ കണ്ടിട്ട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇൻടാക്കിനെ കണ്ടിട്ട് അവർക്ക് ഇത് ഹാൻഡ് ഓവർ ചെയ്തു. ബിൽഡിംഗ് അവർക്ക് ഹാൻഡ് ഓവർ ചെയ്തപ്പോ എന്താ സംഭവിച്ചതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ അവര് സെറ്റ് ഓഫ് റെഗുലേഷൻസും റൂൾസും അതിനകത്ത് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതിനുശേഷം ഉള്ള റീസ്റ്റോറേഷൻ വർക്കും കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ വർക്ക്സും അതിനനുസരിച്ചിട്ടാണ് വരിക. പിന്നെ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമ്മൾ കൊടുക്കുന്ന മോഡേൺ ഡിസൈൻ, ലൈക്ക് ഇപ്പം ഇത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഇപ്പം തലശ്ശേരിയിലുള്ള സ്കൂളിൽ തന്നെ ഇപ്പം മോസ്റ്റ്ലി നമ്മൾ റീകൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻസും ന്യൂ കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻസും ചെയ്യപ്പോഴാണ് നമുക്ക് ഫെസിലിറ്റീസ് ഇല്ലാതെ വരുന്നതാണ്. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ ഫെസിലിറ്റീസ് നിങ്ങൾ ഇൻകോർപ്പറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ യു ഹാവ് ടു ബി വെരി കെയർഫുൾ ദാറ്റ് വാട്ട് യു ആർ ഡൂയിങ് ഈസ് നോട്ട് ചേഞ്ചിങ് ദി ഹെറിറ്റേജ് ക്യാരക്ടർ ഓഫ് ദി ബിൽഡിംഗ്. അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, I think we can wind up because it's almost 2 hours now.
Yes.
So Thank you, Architect Anand. Thank you for your very informative talk and interaction. So hope to see you again.
Sure, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Rasul?
Hemant?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I've been given the opportunity to present the vote of thanks for today. So first of all, I would like to thank our guest speaker, Anand Vishnu sir, for giving us a wonderful knowledge session and like filled with interesting things. It will definitely help us in our studies and for future. And also spending your valuable time with us. It's almost been 2 hours you've been spending with us, like in this busy schedule also. And yeah, once again, I thank you so much, sir, Anand sir. And I'd also like to thank our principal Anis sir and HOD Sharif sir, Rasul sir, and other faculties who have arranged this meeting and made us be part of this wonderful event. And also, finally, I thank all the students who have been part of this webinar and paying attention and learning. So that is the end of the webinar. And thank you one and all who has been part of this. Thank you.
You.
So yeah, and stop it, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hope to meet you soon.
Yes, yes, sure.